Mayor, welcome to the program here. The council did not vote unanimously to remove the language from that deed at the cemetery. Some council members said, listen, there are already Black people buried there. Council handled that before. What would you say, or what would you tell them the reason why this is so necessary to do to clean up this?
Well, I think from a message standpoint and a continuity, it captures in the spirit of it that resolution that you mentioned that said, hey, as a city, we don't agree with this deed restriction. And so this is just the next natural step. And it doesn't, the shocking thing about it is it doesn't require us to do anything other than try. Just I'm asking, if you read the document, it says, I'm asking for the opportunity for legal to continue to explore options. And so I don't understand why we wouldn't at least be comfortable exploring options to remove a deed restriction that's not consistent with our community's values.
This is obviously largely symbolic since there are Black people buried there in the cemetery now, but what kind of reaction have you heard? This took off on social media. A lot of people are talking about it. What have you heard from your constituents?
Well, yeah, in the social media post, if you look at it, it was just to ask the question, am I misunderstanding? Is my position, my understanding on this issue wrong? And unanimously, it has been no, you're spot on. And so I sought to, the question at the end of the video I posted is just the one lone vote saying that he didn't know what we were doing. So I wanted to post an answer to that question. And the answer is, we're trying everything possible that's available to us with the tools available to us to remove a deed restriction that's inconsistent with the spirit of our city and our citizens.
City attorneys are working to remove this language right now from the deed. How soon do you expect that to happen?
You know, my understanding is the research is positive. The Oddfellows are working and helping and willing to have discussions with us, and of which I'm a member. And so I would believe my goal is within next month or so, leading up to Juneteenth, it would be a great thing for our community, something that's been there as long as, you know, I can remember and beyond, to lift that restriction, and it would be a great win for our community. I'm hoping we can get that done, and so that's June 19th timeframe.
And you mentioned the Oddfellows. Oddfellows are the ones that originally owned the cemetery that deeded it over to the city, right?
That is correct. Yes. So they owned it and deeded it over, and it's one of those things where I just did not know. Interesting enough, my dad came to city council and raised the issue a number of years ago. And that's what kind of necessitated or drove earlier council to have the resolution. And so it'll be a big day for him if we're able to get that deed restriction changed. He's been working on it for a very long time.
You're the city's first Black mayor. How much of this was personal rather than just symbolic?
You know, it is personal in your experience in that you have so many challenges, so many struggles you go through, so many life experiences. 1971, my parents moved to Denton, and they could only live on one side of town. They couldn't live where they wanted to because that side wouldn't rent to them. I'm born in 1972, Denton County birth certificate. It says Negroid because I have a Black mom and a Black dad. So it is. And that's forever, right? You can't go back and change that document, but here's an opportunity for future generations to realize that, or to not have to deal with that language, and to have an opportunity for other people to have hope that we can continue to change. But because look, I read a resolution every week and they have no action associated with them. You know, the Heart Association or Walk Apart. So we do a number of things to just raise awareness. This is that same thing.
Were you surprised in the moment there when this did not pass unanimously, when it was 6-1, there was one vote against it?
I truly was. I thought we could all get on board with just trying. No action, no required outcome, no outlay of city dollars. It's just a little extra time to try to remove racist language from a deed on city-owned property. I thought that was a no-brainer. I just truly am shocked that personal conflicts would rise above just good policy, good discussion, good use of staff time.
You're hoping that city attorneys get this language removed by Juneteenth, which is a month from now. Will it have to go back before council for final approval, or will it just take effect?
So I think my understanding is everything will be laid out, ready to go. There may be a vote of council just to confirm what legal already laid out. I'm not sure about that next step. So it may require, or as a courtesy, staff may bring it back for a vote just to simulate what they've already negotiated, that sort of thing. Or it may just go in effect and then it comes to us by way of an update, still trying to get those next steps lined out.
Mayor, do you think there are any other deeds in Denton that are on the wrong side of history?
Not that I'm aware of, but what there are other issues is what you run into HOA restrictions or neighborhood restrictions. And so maybe it'll encourage people. I uncovered one of those a few years ago, a neighborhood restriction where it said, when referring to the HOA said that you had to have a garage, but attached to your home, but above the heading, it said, that section of the HOA documents or bylaws referred to it as, I think they said storage and slave quarters or something like that, but they use the term slave quarters as a descriptor of this extra area attached to your house. Obviously older neighborhood, but yes, that language is still out there in other documents, and such that the city is involved. If someone, again, like my dad brought this to our attention, as hopefully it encourages other citizens to be inspired and say, hey, we all can kind of take a quick look and see if there's things that need to be updated.
Is your dad excited about this maybe finally happening?
I don't even know that he knows. He's not on social media much, and I hadn't talked to him. I've been trying to hold it back as just kind of once we get it done, right? That's the really surprising thing on this. It was just to ask if we can research. Just come with me and support this idea of removing this language from the deed restriction on public property. And so that's all I was asking, right? And so we tried before and been unsuccessful or didn't have a right pathway. And so now there's some things that have changed. I'm optimistic, but I want to wait and surprise them, if you will.
How many times have y'all tried before to do this?
I would say, and if you watch the video, he references the LSR's legal research reports, and so I think 3 or 4. I think we have the actual resolution that says, hey, we disagree with this. The laws have changed. That's noted. And so I think 3 or 4 legal updates that say there's no pathway to adjust this document.
And so that's what was said in the last 3 or 4 attempts to get it changed, right? There was no legal pathway, but now since the laws have changed, there is.
Yes, my understanding from talking to the city attorney that there are some things that have changed, and that's why I wanted to bring forward a new opportunity to authorize staff to invest time to research that.
Mayor, lay out exactly what this vote was for. This wasn't a binding vote at all. What exactly was being voted on?
Yeah, so the process we have in Denton to get something to allocate more than 2 hours of staff time, you have to go before the entire council and make basically your elevator pitch. So you get 2 minutes, you type up a kind of explanation. That's what I posted, my explanation of what I was asking for. And then you pitch that to the other 6 council members, and you need support. In this instance, I needed 6 votes. I got exactly that. The one dissenting vote didn't stop us, but it was just, I believe, just the wrong message to send to our community that I believe is very accepting. So what I was asking for, and it lays out, and it was very transparent. It said, I know we've tried this before. I know there's a resolution. So I note those things, not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes, just saying let's give it another shot. Let's do everything possible to set the record straight so that even if we can't, even if we're not successful, that those in our community know that there's no end we won't go to make sure that we have language no different than gender modification language on our charter. That's before us. We're going to go back and take out the he's and the assumption that it's a he and all those things. So all these things don't really change how processes, but they do update our language to be consistent with where Denton is. So there's a number of examples for this. Again, that's why I was just surprised.
So to make sure I'm clear, this vote was only to ask council. This vote was only to ask city attorneys to spend more than 2 hours potentially researching whether this could be done.
Yes, it was just to authorize the use of more than 2 hours. 2 hours, you don't need to go before the council. Anything that requires more than 2 hours of staff time, you have to go to council and get majority approval, just so that they know that time's well spent.
And you had one dissenting vote.
Yes, and I just don't understand. And in the video they say, hey, their communication was Councilman Beck said, I don't know what we're trying to do here. And that's hurtful, that he doesn't understand, but that's an opportunity to educate and maybe he needs to spend some more time with people and understand what we're trying to do. And maybe this is a learning opportunity for him.
Mayor, thank you for the time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate you having me. Appreciate your interest in what I believe to be a very important issue for the city of Denton.